In today's episode, I'll be giving my review and reaction to the 2018 film Beautiful Boy. Beautiful Boy is a biographical drama with a runtime of 2 hours, directed by Felix van Groeningen. This is my first Felix van Groeningen movie. Sorry for butchering your name, brother. This movie stars Steve Carell, Timothy Chalamet, Mara Tierney, and Amy Ryan. So let's dive right into Beautiful Boy.
Do something, man. People are questioning you. Shut up. Shut up. Okay, yep, do that. Sure, guys. Stupid and dumb. Just an idiot. Get your shit together, son. Fuck it. I loved it. Welcome to the Dub Cast.
Starting with my overall review of the movie, I think this is a very tough watch. Very emotional, especially through the last half of the movie. I thought this movie does a really good job at capturing the moments that Nick has when he is his quote unquote normal self versus his version of himself that he is high on drugs. Addiction fucking sucks, man. I feel like this movie did a masterful job explaining how hard it is to be one of the parents or someone who cares about the person who is addicted. Steve Carell, I thought, was an interesting choice for this role, but with the role he was given, I thought he did a great job of trying to be the somewhat chill dad, but also overprotective like any other parent would be. It was very hard to watch Steve Carell's character just give up on Nick at the end, but shown by that meeting that they attended together, at some point you do just have to give up, and there's not really much you can do. You try and think all you or think that what you'll do is going to help it, but at the end of the day, there's a point where nothing's gonna help. So it sucked to watch that, but that's like a reality. So I was appreciative of that scene and the way that story projected, because I think that's more of a realistic version than like, oh, I'm just gonna keep helping, then I'll finally help. Like, it's not gonna happen like that. So as a tradition now with my reviews, I also did not realize this movie was based off a true story. So I thought that now looking back at the movie, knowing it was based off a true story, I think that adds even more layers to the movie, and I'm proud of the real life Nick for getting sober. I actually recommended this movie to my grandma to watch, and she read up on Nick. I think he's still doing good. He's a lot of years sober, so that's great for Nick. I thought, Timothy Chalamet, now all of a sudden it's 2025 and he's this huge, massive movie star, probably top. I mean, he's at the top of the game right now. I don't know anyone else is doing it like Chalamet, but seeing him 7 years ago in one of his first movie roles, I thought he did a great job in this movie as well. The chemistry between Steve Carell and Timothy Chalamet, I thought, was strong, and everything felt pretty real. Like, you felt like you were right there. It felt like they were a father and a son. So kind of interesting, like, knowing Timothy Chalamet from Dune now and knowing him from that's it. But knowing him from just knowing Timothy Chalamet and knowing Steve Carell from The Office, you're kind of like, what's this combo going to be? But the dynamic felt real. Like, it felt like a true father-son duo. I thought it was also a good idea for this movie to focus on the younger siblings that Timothy Chalamet's character had and David's new wife, Karen, and their reaction to everything too, as it shows that, this stuff has major ripple effects throughout a family. It's not just one person being affected. It's, when you're addicted to drugs like that, it creeps down. It's like a trickle down effect. It screws with everyone in your life. It's not just one or two people. So I thought that brought another grounding kind of aspect to the movie. It makes you, really feel for the characters. So I thought the soundtrack for this movie was also pretty great, especially the songs with the actual lyrics sticking out is especially touching when they played. The setting of the movie I thought was decent with his house, the house that David has and that Nick lives in. I thought was amazing. Just I want to have that house, but overall the setting of the movie, like, I think I'm not gonna say where it is because I kind of forget where the movie takes place. I don't want to be wrong. I don't get called wrong by people. But I thought that was a nice setting for the movie. Obviously, it's 2018, so my theory on time is that as time goes on, these movies better be nice, really sceneries and have nice settings. So, not surprised the 2018 movie has a good background scene stuff, but I thought it was pretty solid. And I'm guessing that some of the maybe oversights or this isn't as modern was done because this was actually supposed to take place during Nick's actual addiction, not 2018. So obviously his story had happened before 2018, so I think that kind of explains that. I guess it's never really properly explained why he gets into those deep drugs in the first place, but it's easy to see why he becomes so addicted on the first few scenes of him high that we do get. The part where he's 14 months sober and then that made that girl do meth with him, his new girlfriend, that killed me. I mean, that's just like it was a tough watch. This was a tough watch, but it was good because it's realistic. I'll give my comp in a second. So I wanted to yell at the screen in this scene and tell him to stop. Overall, I think this is a very solid movie. Now, I say this. Tell me if this is a crazy take. So I think I'm not sure if I'd ever even watch this movie again unless I want to be reminded of how much addiction sucks. And I think there are movies that are good to watch just one time, and that's it. You don't need to go back and revisit it. My prevailing theory on this for the last 5 or so years has been Joker 1. I think that was a good movie, but I have no interest in going to see it again. Like, I'm glad I watched it. I always end up saying I'm glad I watched it. But I don't know. Like, I think that's a genre of movie for me. It's like that was a good movie, but I really don't want to see it again. Like, I'm glad I watched it, and I learned a lot from it, and it was made me feel something. But I don't want to feel that again. And unless someone maybe I know is, I mean, even if someone I knew was addicted to stuff, like that's hard, man. This was a hard movie. So where do I land this movie? I think this is a pretty strong movie. Really, pulls at the heartstrings. It was emotional. It made me feel something pretty sad and realize the true pains of addiction. I mean, I think we all know them, but to see it idolized, not idolized, but portrayed in this form, it hurt, man. So I'm giving this movie a 8.4. Thought this was a good movie to watch. Pulls at the heartstrings, like I said. Timothy Chalamet, Steve Carell did a great job. Like the soundtrack, like the setting. Not really many complaints overall. 8.4 for Beautiful Boy. So now let's compare this 8.4 amongst the other movies we've reviewed so far on the Dubcast channel. So this is movie review number 51, which is crazy to say. I actually have to check the date. I think we're almost at a year in the Dubcast. So 50, I mean, there's a couple movies I didn't review in the Dubcast history. So looking at 50 to 55 to 60 movies a year. Pretty solid, right? So let's pick up the pace. Just kidding, I'm watching TV shows now, but I don't know. 16 to 51, so pretty solid up there. This actually ties. We have a now four-way tie at the 8.4 spot. This ties with the movie Brothers, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and Snowpiercer, all which I would take over Beautiful Boy. I think Beautiful Boy is obviously it's all close because they're all 8.4s, but Beautiful Boy would be the lowest, 8.4. Similar actors, we had Timothy Chalamet in Dune 2, which was a 9.0, and Dune 1, which is an 8.6. So worst Timothy Chalamet movie on the list so far. And usually I like to compare a movie against something that I thought was pretty similar to it, but I don't think there's really another movie on here that I found similar to this one. So I'm not really going to compare it amongst those movies. So now we'll do away with the Dubcast graphic and get into my thoughts and reactions throughout the film. So we start off this movie with Steve Carell playing the character of David. He is worried about his son who has become addicted to crystal meth, and he's asking what can he do to help him and wants to learn all about addiction and why it happens and all that stuff. So um, one of the perks of being a Dubcast listener is I love to go off at the beginning of the movie. I don't really like the beginning of this movie. I guess mostly you probably know what you're getting into when you start watching the movie, but I feel like this kind of spoils the plot a bit. I don't like those intros where it's like you're jumping into 3/4 of the movie and you come back unless it's like really well done. I think this was just kind of out of place. I thought they could have started with something else, but moving on in the movie, we find out David's son has been missing for 2 days. He comes back with a broken taillight and needs to rot. I I struggle with saying what I'm about to say. So I understand the need to rot. Like, if if you're a human, at some point you're gonna need to rot, right? But especially if you're still in high school, why are you disappearing for 2 days? I mean, what could you possibly be up to? And I think David was in the right for a lot of the stuff he does in this movie. I think, you know, everyone grew up with parents, well, some sort of guardian or parent, and they care for you, and sometimes they're a little protective. You understand that, but let's compare being gone in high school for 2 days versus like not doing your laundry or like what I mean. Like that's a pretty worrisome occasion. So, yes, I understand you need to rap, but dude, like, maybe you could have just, even if you're, never mind. But that was kind of my take on that. So, we're going to rehab right off the bat, as you should. I mean, this kid is missing for 2 days. He's still in high school. So on the way to rehab, they're in the car, and he just ukes on the way, just proving his condition is even worse than we thought. So he's going to start off with a 28-day program where he'll be closely monitored. He is in a halfway house where he is going to work and not go to college. And just as you'd expect, it goes well for a couple days, and then all of a sudden he's gone. And David gets the phone call on where to go. Somehow, this is based off a true story, so I can't question. I hate when it's based off a true story because I can't question the plot integrity. Um, so David somehow just perfectly Kobe's exactly where Nick is in the alley. Um, this scene is also interlaced with Nick and David smoking a doob together, which I thought that was. I get it. It's kind of like David's like the chill dad. Here we go, Nick. I mean, Nick like eggs him on to smoke with him. Um, I can't relate to that. Like, I don't know. I know a lot of people sometimes would like to smoke weed with their parents. I don't think I would like to do that, mostly because I tweak when I'm high. But if I were to ever smoke weed, knock knock, whatever, you get it. But yeah, I don't know. I think David gave in a little too much here, and maybe if you're looking at this movie with like a super hypocritical parenting lens, and it's like, why would you ever do that? He's only 18, but like I know people who have grown up with parents and they're drinking at 16 years old. Like, let's be real here. I think it's more about it was a safe environment. David's going to be driving. I don't think he's going to think this would cause a steamroll where the kid's all of a sudden doing these hard ass drugs. So I don't think that's that bad of a thing, but I thought that was kind of an interesting scene to include of them smoking weed together. So we get the full resume of Nick's drug list. So pot, we already knew that. Alcohol, I mean, that's assumed. I mean, I feel like at least, I don't want to give a number, but probably 65% of kids by the time of high school graduation have drank. Ecstasy. Now we're getting into some crazy. Those are like college, like maybe once or twice, three times. Unless I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. I just. I mean, once you're doing all these things together, though, it's like LSD, ecstasy, cocaine for years, meth for a couple months. This is when you need a rehab program, man. So I think David was in the right here. And then the dad, I mean, he has nothing to say, David. He's just like, why? It sucks. Like, these scenes suck. It's like, there's no explanation either. It's just addiction. Like, you can't just be like, some people, and, I always get a little bit ragged on because I think I'm good with addiction. I, I don't think I've ever been really addicted to anything. Um, that's probably not true, but I think I can get off things pretty well. I mean, I've quit vapes. I'm 2 years free on vapes. Not to get into my own personal, you know. There's other things that I've never done and have no intention of doing. But I know that like I have other friends who are addicted to things that they'll never quit. So it's like I get it, and asking why, it sucks. Like there's literally no answer you can even say. It's like someone and they're trying to be sober, and then all of a sudden they drink. It's like why? It's like I just wanted to, like there's nothing you can even say. And now Nick instead is going to decide he wants to do college now, which this was a bad idea. I mean, yeah, he's gonna be in school, but like the first day he's in school, he goes and like does it, like finds a needle. It's like, dude, this is not gonna end well. Especially no supervision. I think the key into all addiction is just supervision. Like, if you want to get better, if not, then you're just gonna. I don't know. I hate talking about this because I feel like I'm giving bad advice. So he is at college. He finds love. Things seem to be going a little bit better. He's at dinner with his parents now. Or no, he's at dinner with the parents of his new girlfriend. Now this scene I thought was a little psychotic. He's in the medicine cabinet of the new girlfriend's parents. I thought this was psychotic behavior, to be honest. I don't know. I didn't like this at all. And instead of just doing meth raw like he was before, he looks up safer injecting. So that's how he's going to progress and be better at taking meth. And then yeah, while he's looking at this library computer, I was like, is that computer from 1990? It probably was, because now I understand the setting was probably um, about Nick when he was in college, so that makes sense. And this is one of the more heartbreaking scenes we get to. So Nick comes back from college, and he's back at the home place with the younger kids, and the younger brother loses $8. And you know right away what's good here. It's like the guy stole it for drug money. I mean, we hear all the time about people who are addicted to drugs breaking into houses, getting loose change. But you, this was sad, man. It's like this kid's whole life savings. I mean, the kid's probably ate himself. He has $1 for every year. Oh, dude, this scene was one of the heartbreakers. Um, and then once he's confronted on it by David, obviously no one would, no, David or his new wife wouldn't take the money. The sister was like, they had a blowout. Well, a little kid blowout where they were just like, oh, you stole my money, blah blah blah. Like they're little kids, whatever. But it was evident that the sister didn't take it. So once Nick is accused by this, he packs up and leaves. And I thought he was high as fuck during the scene. He probably was. Don't know if I ever got clarification on that. Um, David's able to get access to Nick's journal. He reads it. I thought this journal is pretty sadistic and just talks about doing drugs all the time. I mean, to be expected. I don't know. A lot. One of my friends who watched this movie liked the drawings that they did. I thought they were creepy. I don't really like those type of drawings, but I respect the artwork. I know for a fact Timothy Chalamet didn't draw those, but you know, it is what it is. So now, this is one of the scenes that I saw in Letterboxd. Shout out Letterboxd, shout out TV Time, that people were upset with. That so David is, I got to figure out what's going on with my son. I'm gonna try and figure out from another person what's happening here. He finds a random woman on the street, takes her out to lunch, and he's trying to learn more about why people do drugs. Like I mentioned before, you're not going to find the answer. It's addiction. It's like you feel like you're on top of the world. Of course, people are going to keep doing them, especially if you can't resist yourself. And his his analysis of this situation is to buy coke and do it himself. And he's just like pacing in his office, and nothing ever comes of the scene. So I'm going off. I got influenced by the Letterbox people. I think this was a dumb scene now because nothing ever happens from it. And even in my notes, I wrote, "Bro, what the fuck? Like, what was this? I don't know." I thought that was pretty random and stupid that he would do that, especially because he's like trying to be on the straight. I mean, we don't see him doing it. That's the only time we see him. Well, he smokes weed too, so maybe David was a little druggy back in the day. But I don't know. I thought that scene was kind of out of place, and I didn't really like the way that that went down. So we head to more confrontations. Obviously, it's getting more hostile and hostile between Nick and David, especially after he stormed out and left. Nick hits the ultimate punch on David. He says the mother should have gotten custody. That's a deep cut. I mean, too far. Obviously, David tried his best. He's still trying his best just to get the kid off drugs, but he's like fighting back. But he's probably high at the time of saying this. It sucks. I mean, another deep cut. I mean, there's probably a top 5 scenes you can do of just like ouch, ouch, ouch. Like it sucks to watch this movie, but it's good because it's addiction and it sucks. So we learn more about Nick's situation. They're kind of distant now at this point. Something happens, and David has to fly into New York to the hospital where Nick is. And by the time he gets there, Nick pulled out the IV and catheter and checked out of the hospital. And yeah, in order for him to get the proper treatment he needs, it's 40,000 a month. Healthcare sucks. I mean, this was probably even pre-inflation time, so factor that in because this wasn't in 2018. So that sucks even more. It's probably like 100K a month our time. Like, come on, dude. So we get the title drop of the movie, Beautiful Boy. I do like when they do drop a little title into the movie. So when we get a flashback scene of David singing to Nick when he's a little boy, he's like, beautiful, beautiful boy. Maybe there's a top 10 of sad scenes in this movie. But this, now, I will be transparent. I didn't bawl my eyes out, but I was like, tears were flowing during Arrival. This movie, I don't think I cried. Maybe it was like, you get that feeling in your eye, like, my about to cry right now. Maybe that happened a couple times, but I wasn't actually crying. But this movie still was sad. I mean, the beautiful boy scenes, like the music I said before with the lyrics, I thought hit really hard. This was one of those scenes I was talking about. So we have a revelation of when Nick and David first started saying the term everything to each other. I'm forgetting the specific context of the original moment, but that was kind of like their signature goodbye. Like instead of saying I love you, they're like everything to each other. And seeing that for the first time, now knowing the path they'll go down, sucks. I don't know, man. This was just it was hit after hit to your soul, to your heart to watch this play out. But it's a good story. So we see the mother. We finally learn who the original mother is. Now this was a Office. People in 2018. I think we're talking about this. Like, oh, we're getting Hallie Flax, not Hallie, Holly Flax and Michael Scott together. Amy Ryan's back to be the mother, and this is the kid they never had. If this was Michael Scott and Holly Flax's kid, bro, we got a fucked up story. I think this is too negative for the Office. So I see what they did there. That was probably a draw of the movie because I think this is one of the first movies that came out only specifically on streaming. I could be wrong about that. Amazon Prime Video. But yeah, they knew what they were doing with this. I don't mind it because obviously the actor and actress have chemistry together, but be real. We know what you're doing with this. And speaking of this, now we get to a good Well, I thought that was a good casting decision. Just thought that was funny that they were playing that out that way. A great casting decision is Bubbles from The Wire at the AA meeting. He is the sponsor now of Timothée Chalamet. So there's literally pop culture references just by the casting choice in this movie. So Amy Ryan as the mother, with being a couple with Michael Scott at some point, they divorced. Well, not Michael Scott, David's character. That's a pop culture reference to Office. We're in 2018, so The Office is well done by now. And then you have Bubbles from The Wire. Obviously addicted to drugs on his own right, and then gets clean himself. And now he's a sponsor for Nick's character. So good pop culture references, sneaky. It never even needs to get mentioned because obviously it's parallel universes, but I like those casting decisions. Thought that was a really interesting way to do that. So now Nick has been 14 months clean. He's got Bubbles, I don't know what his actual character name is, as his sponsor. And so now we're on to 485 days clean, 14 months clean, takes a drug test. He goes back home. David's like, would you be good taking a drug test? This is a tough question to ask, but it's like, if you want to stay on track, you got to do this, right? So the kids thought that Nick might be different this time, but he's the same old Nick, hangs out and plays with them. He graduated from school. And at the time, I was like, is this from the past to the present? And then he goes back wherever he was going from. And once again, I was just trying to I'm kind of terrible at telling when people are high. So I was like, he's high when he's leaving, but he might have been. Like maybe that was the emphasis of the movie. I don't know, but it was tough just to tell when he was actually high. So then we get to the scene I talked about in my overall review of him and the girl. He's just like vamping outside of a club or a bar, smoking a cig or smoking a J or something, and then a girl comes up to him from high school. Just because if you know somebody from high school and you're of the opposite genders, you have to get together. I mean, this is realistic. I've seen it happen in my own personal life. So my notes on this, I was saying, what are you doing? 4 question marks. But it was obvious it was going to happen again. I mean, we had too much runtime left on the TV, metagaming the movie. Fuck, man. It's now, not only is he doing it on his own, he gets the girl to do it. Just have a nice time with the girl. You don't need to do drugs. Like, I feel like if you're able to have a good time with a girl and not be a drunk or high, that means like that's a keeper, bro. But you have to get this. You have to use. I mean, they use everything as an excuse to get high or drunk. I get it. So that's his excuse now, and now he gets the girl to do it with him. I was pissed off at this. I mean, this is when Nick just straight up becomes the antagonist of the movie. It's like, dude, we tried so hard, and you're just addicted to drugs, whatever. So now, the whole time Nick was actually with the mother. That's the context of that. So now he was going to school in California. So he's in California, and now that this happens under his watch, I thought that was pretty unfair of David what he does to yell at his ex-wife when the same thing happened when David was in control of Nick. And then he asks her to. I'm sorry. Okay. He asks his ex-wife to relax and be reasonable. Now, I don't think this is something you should ever say to a woman. Woman out there, if you're watching this, do you agree with me? I think people the women in my life that I've told relax don't like when you say that. So I think obviously misstep number one. Be reasonable, especially when you're. I mean, sometimes that's an argument you're never gonna win. So never gonna work from that point of view. Just had to point that out. Sorry if that's sexist. I don't think it is. I think it's true because women have literally told me don't tell me to relax. So you know, little life experience from me over here. Um, yeah. So he's back now from Cali with the girl, and going into his old house. And yeah, let's break into our old house. He will stop at nothing. Like, what is he trying to accomplish here, bro? He's got nothing in his room. He reads what his dad wrote, a letter referring to him, missing his beautiful boy. Another heart wrenching scene, but this doesn't really have much effect on Nick. And yeah, and while this is happening, we have David's at a swim meet with his kid. Just had to note terrible diving form. I'm recording this at the time of Ashton Hall diving form, which um, people are criticizing. Survivor Kevin, people are criticizing, so I'm gonna call it out. Even if you're 8 years old, I think I called it out in Man on Fire. I need to see realistic swimming scenes as a former varsity athlete on the swim team at high school. Okay, and I definitely wasn't on the varsity team because two people opted out and went to play for their volleyball match instead of being varsity. Um, so I'm watching for form here. That was a terrible dive by the kid. Just had to put that in there. And so once David and the kids get home from the swim meet, Nick drives right by them. Once again, heartbreaking. Karen follows while crying. This was a tough watch. I mean, she's like doing like a cop chase while just bawling her eyes out. I mean, I was like, please just stop driving because this is going to end horribly. So finally, everything kind of catches up to Nick when the girlfriend overdoses and he brings her back to life with CPR. I'd be terrified of this. I mean, I learned how to do CPR in high school. I think we all did, but it's like, would you actually trust yourself to do that? And I think they actually tell you not to do CPR anymore. Um, I don't know. And this is when Nick kind of realizes his breaking point has been hit. He calls his dad, and his dad says, "I can't help you." I think this is post. No, okay, this isn't post the meeting, but I think David's sort of given up, and he's done everything he could. He paid the money, gave him treatment facilities, he sent him to college, he sent him across the country, let him live with his mom. Nothing really helps. So it's like, what can I do? You're in a situation where your girlfriend overdosed because you guys are doing meth, like not meth or heroin. I'm sorry, I mixed that up. I don't know which one it was, so I'm not confident enough to speak clearly on it. One of my friends razzed me on that, so I don't know what the actual case scenario is. Either way, tough situation. I mean, when there's nothing you can actually do to help. Like, what's he supposed to do? What's David supposed to do? And yeah, moving on from this scene, he gives up on trying to help Nick. He has kind of a reverse AA meeting that hits him pretty hard. It's like there's only so much we can do because this starts to become a burden on your own life where you're questioning every move you're making and all the decisions you're making. It becomes a detriment to your life. At some point, you got to just let them do what they're going to do because you've tried your best and that's it. So tough scenes to watch. More scenes with our last scene with Nick. I think his arm looked ugly as shit with all those needle jabs. I mean, obviously that's the point of it. He's in a restaurant, goes to the bathroom. I thought he died. This was the end of the movie. I thought he was dead. Nope, he does make it. David's still there to help him and not help him, but comfort him. And hopefully you're doing good. You just passed out in a bathroom. And we don't really get a definitive ending to the story besides the post-credit words of telling that this was a true story. Good for Nick for being sober. He gets sober for 8 years, so good job getting sober. According to my grandma, he's still sober, so hopefully that's true. And yeah, I mean, this was a lot, man. This is a lot to consume. So that's it for Beautiful Boy, guys. Really like this movie so much that I'm never gonna watch it again. I'm kidding, but I don't know. I think it's one of those movies that you do one time and then you're like, if friends talked about it, it's like, I remember that. That was pretty sad to watch, and I hate addiction. And it's like, yeah, I think I agree with that. And it was, that was that. So, what did you guys think of Beautiful Boy? Am I too high on it? Am I too low on it? Where would you rate it? Next movie review we have coming up will be Joker, Folie à Deux. I'm gonna have to learn how to say the last word of that. It'll be shorter because I didn't take notes, so just a heads up on that if you like the long reviews. I think I'm at the point where I'm just gonna say fuck it and just start reviewing shit and whatever because I need content, right? We need content in this game Dubcast season. It's always Dubcast year 2025. More content coming on the way. More movie reviews. We'll have a movie review for The Sting. Besides that, TV shows. We got Severance season 1 in the can, so that'll be on the way soon as well. Keeping up with White Lotus and Daredevil Born Again. So those reviews will drop when those shows finish airing. Survivor weekly. Expect weekly episodes for that. Sports, we got UFC 314 coming up April 14th, so that'll be coming in a couple weeks. And then we have, is it April 14th? I don't even know if that's right, but at some point in April, hopefully Shane will be back with me and maybe some more guests, make some picks. Besides that, NFL or NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs. I'll do my bracket and not talk anymore about it because I don't know anything about the NHL. But yeah, we have NBA. There's people lining out the door to get on the Dubcast with NBA guys. So maybe we return with the live streams, NFL mock draft. It's the Dubcast. It's 2025. All the content you can ask for is here, guys. So make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, hit that dislike button, leave a comment. Love the comments from the people. Stay tuned for live streams. I feel like I'm performing on stage with Travis Scott when I'm in a live stream. It's like people commenting, it feels awesome. I'm being really cringy now. So you know what you're getting with the Dubcast. Social media, TikTok, we're on the rise, baby. So I'll leave y'all with that. And as always, be easy, y'all.